Have you now, are you now, or have you ever been? Okay.
Wrong interview.
No, that was somebody else. Okay.
Is that what you said to Bob when he...
No.
Oh,
No, I would have if I would have thought
well,
of it.
he might have been involved in some of that, so you had to be careful with him.
You mean Fritz?
No, not Fritz.
No, don't even put that on.
I'm not.
Okay. All right. Well, today we have Zita Pfeiffer visiting. And, well, let's just start with Zita. Is that an original name? Z-I-T-A?
Yes, yes. Yes, I'm named after a couple of people. But the first one my mother named me after was the Empress Zita of Austria. She met her right after World War I at a luncheon in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and thought she was just a beautiful lady. And she was expecting me, and really expecting another child to be a boy, because she had two girls. And she went home and asked my dad if he liked, if it would be all right if he named her new baby Zita. And he said, oh, he thought that was a good idea. Well, later I found out that his first sweetheart was named Zita. Zita Norris. And she was a red-headed Irish girl from Jackson, Michigan. And they had been engaged to be married, but 6 weeks before their wedding, why she died from spinal meningitis.
Oh.
And then he waited 7 years before he met my mother. And when he met my mother, Amber Murray, why, that was it. And they were married 6 months later.
Oh, they only knew each other for 6 months?
6 months.
Wow.
So, and he worked for my grandfather on the railroad. And of course, he met my mother and found out she was the daughter of his boss. So then he didn't quite know what to do, but he went ahead and met her anyway.
They all sound Irish.
Yep, O'Toole. His name was Harry Thomas O'Toole, and he was very, very Irish. I'm proud of it.
Well, I can see you have the red hair, so must be Irish in you.
It used to be.
Let's see. Well, then you remember your grandparents, do you?
Oh, yes, I remember. I remember my grandfather O'Toole and my grandmother O'Toole, I didn't know. But my Grandma Murray and Grandpa Murray, I remember. They were, Grandma Murray was Scottish, of course, and had red hair. And she was tiny. She was only about 5'1". And my Grandpa Murray was about 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
But Grandma Murray was the boss. And but Grandpa Murray was a great big fella, nice, easy-going man, and he was boss over at the railroad.
Oh, I see. That's who your dad worked for.
Yeah. Can't think of anything more to talk about that, or I'd get too involved.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, we saw that old movie when Betty Sue got married, and she got to meet her grandfather, and he said, she said, what advice can you give me? And he says, take care of your teeth. And I just wonder, did your grandfather or grandmother ever give you a good piece of advice?
Grandma Murray told us all to save our money. Don't be spending it.
Well, she was Scottish, though.
She was Scottish.
That's probably pretty standard.
And she took care of the money.
Well, when, of course, you've been through the Depression.
Oh.
So did you save your money and have a lot of it during the Depression?
No. They lost my parents lost everything during the crash there in Grand Rapids. And lost their home and everything.
Oh, gosh. So do you have jokes that you say, we were so poor?
We were so poor that I didn't even know we were poor. Everyone else was poor too, and they didn't have anything. And so we just went along.
Yeah.
And Mother and Dad kept the family together. We never separated. But we were pretty poor. We had potato soup a few nights for dinner.
Mhm.
And the first Christmas, after they lost everything, and they'd lost their home and everything, and we didn't have much of a Christmas. And we had, I think Mother said we had 25 cents, and we went out looking for a Christmas tree.
Oh.
I'll have you in tears.
No.
And but she took the three of us, Kay and Peggy and myself, out, and we walked around in the neighborhood, and we finally found one little scrawny little tree, and the fella wanted 50 cents for it, and Mother said all we had was 25 cents, and we all three kids just stood and looked at it, and he says, oh, all right, take it. It was Christmas Eve.
Oh, gosh.
So we got our Christmas tree. We went home, and Mother had saved some ornaments and put the ornaments on. And that was quite a time. But we survived, and everyone's done very well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you had a career of your own.
Well, I always worked right out of high school, and I did go to business school for a while and took some art classes and things, but I worked at banks and trust companies.
What was the best job you ever had?
Oh, I went with Ford Motor Company, and I was in the public affairs department on the staff there, and that was very good. I was in, we handled special events.
For the Ford Motor Company?
Yeah, special events, and I was in publications for all the Ford dealers. That little magazine, the Ford Times, that was put out by that staff, and all the dealers paid for it and gave it to all their customers. And
So
I was there for 28 years.
Wow. So you met Mr. Ford?
Yep, I have met him. I was at what they called the guest center for the last 6 years I worked, and we handled just VIP parties and meetings over there.
Oh. So did you get a lot of fancy, famous people come through?
Well, right at the moment I thought of Muhammad Ali came through one day, and I went out of my office and out on a balcony and looked down and saw him, and I thought, my goodness, he is a nice-looking, tall man, and he was very nice and gracious, and they scooted him right through the lobby onto an elevator, and I don't think people in the lobby realized he was there.
Ah.
They did it so quickly.
So not to bother him, probably.
Yeah, they never let anyone bother them. And then they took them on private tours around the plant, showed them the assembly line, and then we were right across the street from Greenfield Village
Oh, yeah.
and Edison Institute, so that was one of the things they always did usually. I went over there every day for lunch in the village.
Oh, nice.
Watched all the school kids going along, scouts and things.
That's a pretty famous place, actually.
That was very nice. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I brought my kids up there, I think. They all loved it too.
Did they? Okay, let's see. Well, I wrote down a few questions here. One thing I think is interesting, what's the best invention of your life? What's been invented that really you thought was a great thing?
There's a couple, but the best one was the garbage disposal. Used to have to carry that garbage out, or your dad did. And,
Yeah, we just take that.
and
for granted.
he said to me one day, "Why do I always have to carry the garbage out?" And I said, "I don't know why. It's just your part of your job, and that's it." So then we got the garbage disposal, and it was wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Air conditioning. I loved air conditioning coming in there. And, there's been so many since I was born, but those are two that I really was glad. Air conditioning in cars, that was so important. And then I'm an asthmatic, So air conditioning just saved my life,
Yeah.
because when I first started working, buildings didn't have air conditioning in them.
Mhm.
And,
Well, especially in Grand Rapids or
oh,
Detroit.
in Detroit. So, but there's been a lot of things. I know when my mother was alive, we used to talk about the things that she had seen happen. The telephone,
Oh, wow.
first telephone coming into their home, lights. They used to have gas lights in her home, and the electric lights came in. And I remember the gas fixtures in our home in Grand Rapids, well, our home, Grandma Murray's home. We lived with her when I was real little for a while, I guess. But they still had those gas things coming out of the wall where they used to have them. And but then they brought in the electricity.
That sounds kind of romantic, actually. Gas lights, doesn't it?
Well,
Just kind of a charm to that.
I suppose.
So much better than fluorescent, for example.
Oh,
you know?
yes, yes. But once you got the electric light going, the gas light didn't seem very much at all. But Mother saw the airplane, you know, all those things. So she'd marvel at everything that came along. She was a good one.
Okay, I'll give you your choice.
Oh.
You can tell me a moment in your life that you're very proud of, or your most embarrassing moment.
I have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. What am I most proud of? Oh, I think I'm very proud of what I accomplished with my family. I think my family, my husband,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always very proud of him. And I think my family.
Do you have one moment that sticks out that you look back on when you're remembering fond times?
Oh my, I don't know. I've had a very nice life. There's been so many that to pick out one moment, I'm afraid I can't do that.
How about a certain time of your life that was the best?
I think when I was about 45 to 50,
Yeah?
50, 55, right in there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice time. That's when the children were looking. I had the children and they were grown up, and we just enjoyed them so much.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was alive, of course. She lived with us, and she enjoyed them all
Mm-hmm.
so much. So, in fact, that's one of the things I wish she could see them all now.
Well, your family, you were really close with your side of the family. Did they get along with your husband's side of the family?
Oh, yes. My husband had the grandest family. I knew them all during the war. They stayed close to me. And Bill was overseas. We weren't married then, but when he was gone, they called me and said, now you come out and see us. They lived at a farm. His aunts, his mother had died, and his aunts lived out at a farm, and his grandma. So I'd go out to see them, take my girlfriends with me. I had a car. We'd go out and spend a weekend. Minnie and Tizzy.
Those were the aunts.
They were the aunts, and Grandma and Grandpa Ballard. And when Bill didn't dare not marry me, they'd have disowned him.
Well, how did you meet Bill?
Bill, I met him at a wedding finally, but my friends had been trying to get us together for quite a while. And he worked with some of my girlfriends, and I'd stop in to see them where they worked, and they'd say, oh, you just missed Bill, and we want you to meet him. And I'd think, oh, fine, blind dates, don't pay any attention to that. So I went to a wedding, and one of the girls got married that he worked with, and he had promised he'd be at the wedding. He had 2 weddings to go to that night. And, and my husband, if he made a promise, he kept it. And anyway, he had to go from people don't know how far this is, but from one suburb, Wyandotte, way across town on the streetcar to where the wedding was and the reception. So by the time he had transferred twice and gotten there, he was pretty tired. And he met me in the line at the buffet table. And I talked to everybody, so I just said something to him, and he said, well, who are you with? And I said, oh, I'm just with the gang over there in a little alcove. And I said, aren't you with anyone? He said, no. He said, I just got here. And I said, oh, well, you can come eat with us. Then he said, how did you get here? And I said, oh, I drove. And he said, you have a car? This was 1940. You weren't supposed to have a car.
There weren't that many cars, huh?
And,
especially for a guy that just taken 2 streetcars.
So anyway, I didn't get rid of him the rest of the evening. He was right there, sitting next to me and talking, and then of course he knew all the other girls. And I found out that this was the fella that they wanted me to meet. And he was kind of cute. He had black curly hair and pretty eyes, and he was taller than I was. I was quite tall. I was 5'5", and I don't know, right at that time, that was before the war, before he went into the war. And, but it was very nice. So then I drove him home. And we made a date to go ice skating. We were both 19. So.
Oh, really? That was your first date to go
First date, went ice skating. And
did you have to pick him up?
Oh, yes. And then we went tobogganing and with some friends of his. And then we went ice skating quite often. Just that's about all you did back then, you know. Not like the kids today. And
well, you were a pretty cheap date, actually.
And I drove my own car. Isn't that funny when you think of it? Oh, but we used to go dancing. We had the big bands there were coming in, just starting to come in. And so we'd go dancing. And then he called one day and he said he'd had just enlisted in the Marines. Oh boy. He hadn't talked that over with me at all.
Wow.
But he was going to enlist with 3 of his friends. There were 4 of them. And they were all going to go down and enlist in the Marines. And he was the only one that showed up that morning, and he went on and enlisted anyway. So then he was gone for 5 years. But he was home twice, 2 leaves. So we finally did get engaged. And then the last time when he came home, we got married. I went down to Richmond, Virginia to see him. And he had already made plans. He'd had his blood test, he'd talked to the priest, and we could get married down there in the Catholic Church. And so I called home and told my mother, and she sent my birth certificate down, and he called the church at home, talked to, what was the name of that priest then? And Father Kern at Holy Trinity Church. And it just happened, there was a girl in the office that knew me, and Father Kern turned to her and he said, do you know Zita O'Toole? And she said, oh, yes, I know her. We'd gone all through school together, or through grade, junior high and senior. And he said, well, she wants to get married down in Richmond, Virginia. And she said to him, oh, well, if Zita wants to get married, it's okay.
That was that.
So she always took the credit for giving the okay that I could get married.
You know, there's a famous priest from Detroit during the war. What was that guy's name? Father Coughlin?
Oh, Father Coughlin. He was out in Royal Oak at the Shrine of the Little Flower.
Did you ever hear him speak?
Yes, I went out to see him. A friend of my mother's and dad's took me out there. And I heard him speak. He was quite a forceful, causing a little trouble.
Time for you. Okay, well this...
Down! Get back there. Go on.
Boy,
Get
she
down.
sure isn't trained very well, madam.
Get down.
She a good watchdog? I don't picture you as having Great Danes somehow.
Yeah, I don't either. I have little Bichons. I love Bichons.
Ixnay on the Ogs Day.
Okay, ask her about the priest again.
Okay, yeah. So I've always been fascinated with this priest because he became so popular. Catholic priest preaching really anti-Semitism from the pulpit, no?
Yes. He was, but the church cooled him off and told him he couldn't do that anymore. And he did. He just stopped.
Yeah.
But you can read all the books you want about him if you're that interested. Just go to your library and get the book.
You don't want to tell.
Yeah. But he used to get such crowds. You couldn't get a parking place out there in Royal Oak, and people would be standing outside the church, the windows. They have to open the windows and let them stand outside to listen to him because they just couldn't get him in.
Oh, that's something. And he was a big fan of Roosevelt's?
Oh, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. So maybe it was people who didn't like Roosevelt
No,
or
I
something?
don't think so. I think he was just causing too much trouble, getting people not, I was too young. You want to remember, I was about 12 when that all happened. But that's all I remember, really, is going out there and hearing about him. And then he got told not to talk anymore.
Well, why do you expect so many people went?
Probably saying what they like to hear.
No, remember how you told me that? Okay. There really was...
To go out there to listen to him?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see. I know they listened to him on the radio every night or every Sunday. He gave this big speech, really an orator. And he was talking about the Depression, and it was tough then, and people wanted to hear somebody saying something that people should do. They should be doing more, should be doing this. But here Roosevelt came along and did do something for us.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first thing in our family that happened was my older sister that had to go to work in order to get some money to help support the family. She got raised from $9 a week to $12.
Because
What was that, the NRA? I think it was the national, I think that was it. My goodness, a $3 raise back then. That was just, I think at that time I was, 15, 16, I was about 17 when that all happened. And then things just started getting better. I got out of high school and I didn't go to college, which we would have all been going to college. It had all been planned. And I became a secretary. That was 1937. And my sister, the middle sister, Peggy, she graduated just before I did, and she went to work where my sister worked. And the two of them, I think, were making $9 a week. So they each got a raise, and then they both went on to better things, because we all were still going to school, night school, and so we weren't satisfied with what we were doing, so we all got better jobs. So over the years, everything got better.
So, Zita, what's the most beautiful place you've ever been to?
Right here, I love it. Right in San Luis Obispo. In this home, I just love this home.
Okay.
It's
It's
okay.
beautiful here. And, but I do like, I think Michigan's beautiful too. If you travel, there'll be so many places when you're traveling and you'll just think, oh, well, this looks like Michigan. This looks like Michigan. And I remember being in North Carolina down there during the war and telling some of the girls I met down there at the beach, I said, you know, this beach looks just like Lake Michigan. Oh, no, I said, well, it does. I said, we have this same beautiful beach. We have the lake that looks just like an ocean. It is, I said, you can't see the other side of it. And they didn't believe me.
We don't realize how big those lakes
They
are, the
don't,
Great
they
Lakes.
just had no idea that. I liked it there, but I sure was glad to get home to Michigan. And northern Michigan is beautiful. On the Upper Peninsula,
It's pretty cold up there, though, doesn't it?
it gets pretty cold. And it's cold right now.
So you're glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here. I have to go home, but I'm just going to turn around and go to Florida, so it's not going to be too much of a hardship. The snow and ice isn't going to bother me very long. 3 days I'll be home, and then I'll take off and won't be home till St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, is that a big day for you?
Have to be home for St. Patrick's. Have a big, big party. I have 2 parties now I have to go to every year. One's my daughter's husband's family. They have a big party. That goes on all day. And then in the evening, why I go out with friends we've gone out with over the years for 60-some years, every St. Patrick's Day.
Well, tell me about a St. Patrick's Day that you had at your house.
Good. Oh, I don't know if you went, but they are fun. But I don't have them anymore. But
Tell me about the best one you had at your house.
oh, well, everyone was the best one. But we had so many, and so many would come. So many, all the kids and all the relatives from all over the state. They'd come from Grand Rapids and from up north. And
We're in
they
green.
come from the Upper Peninsula. And we had a dear friend that could play the piano. Just played anything you wanted to hear, just wonderful. And then we had another friend that played a violin. He could play anything anybody sang, he could play right along and play. One year we had another friend, one of the relatives brought his saxophone. Another friend brought a boyfriend that played the drums. It was such a big party that year, it's a wonder the neighbors didn't complain for sure.
And everybody sing?
Everybody singing. All the Irish songs and Scottish songs.
Oh, and Scottish
Yeah,
songs.
we had to have some Scottish in there. So.
What are some of the Irish songs?
Oh my goodness, have to sing I Take You Home Again, Kathleen. And when Irish eyes are smiling, Peg of my heart, because of my sister Peg, we'd always sing that to her. And I wandered tonight through the hills, Maggie. And we played everything. And I had song sheets. Everybody would just pick them up and sing along.
Oh, fun. That sounds like fun.
And everybody'd be dancing. Bar was open. Regular, typical Irish hold down or something. Had to tear the paper off the wall.
Oh, Michael McGilligan's. No.
Make room for all the people in the hall. I can't sing anymore.
At Mick McGilligan's ball
Yes,
dancer.
that's it.
I know that one.
And everybody just had such a good time. It lasted till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I came down one morning after the party, and Bill was asleep in one of the chairs. And he was just sleeping there, and he still had a bottle of beer in his hand. Oh, that was funny. And I went over and I tried to get the bottle of beer out of his hand, and he woke up and he said, "What happened?"
Where is everybody? So did you have Irish food?
Oh, we had what we called Irish food. Always had corned beef, and but we made a dish that my mother made during the Depression, because it went a long way, and she'd make it in a big cooker, and we called it Irish Spanish rice, but it wasn't like the Spanish rice that you get. She made it with green peppers and celery and onions and tomatoes and mixed it all up. So on St. Patrick's Day, all those years, we'd still make that. And I'd run out every year. Everybody ate it. You know those big electric cookers, this high, big, and this high? Make that full.
Magic.
Had one of the friends, one of my relatives, Chuck, came up one year. We had the party downstairs, and we came up, and he came back in from the dining room, and he said, "Well, where's that Spanish rice?" And I said, "Well, you just didn't get up here in time. Here it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was just looking for it." Oh me, oh my. But that was fun. And we'd have somebody be sleeping in every bed, every couch, staying over, you know.
Oh, that's good.
Oh my.
Well, have you ever been to Ireland?
Oh yes, I've been to Ireland. Yeah, I was over there.
Oh. Hey, hey, hey.
What are they barking?
Shh. Dog.
Oh, I see. I thought somebody was coming.
I want to hear about this.
Oops, Emma. I gotta feed the horses.
Oh, yeah.
You want to hear about
Girls.
The girls.
Yeah, we'll call them the girls.
Tell me about them. How did you met in high school?
Yes. Well, when we graduated, why, of course, we all lived in different parts of Detroit, and that's a long story. Not a long story, but it's a story. When we were in high school, there, we went to school one morning, and our high school had burned down.
Oh, no.
And so it was on like a Monday morning, I think, Monday or Tuesday morning, I've forgotten now. And we all thought, oh boy, we're going to have some time off. And it was in the winter time, snow, and by the time I got home from school, they were already announcing on the radio that the students from Western High School were to go to Cass Technical High School and attend classes there, that Cass was making room for us. I didn't even know where Cass Technical High School was at the time, but it wasn't too far for me to go.
It's a pretty famous school.
It was a technical school, great arts school, and that's where I went later I worked in the night school office there after I was there a while, and I found out about their good art program. So then I went to the art program after that, after I graduated. But anyway, all the girls that we sort of banded together, my goodness, there was all the Cass Tech students there and all the Western students there. And but anyway, then when we graduated, why we just all decided, this certain little group, we still stayed together. And some were going to Southwestern High School over that way. They did split us up a little bit, and but it all went along. There was about a dozen of us, and we'd meet once a month, and we used to meet at each other's homes and do crafts and do things, volunteer stuff for people, and baskets for the poor, and
There were people poorer than you?
Oh, I guess there were, because at that time we were doing better, and there were still people that had never made it back. And but then we just went on. That was 1930. We graduated in 37, and we are still meeting. We meet once a month, and but now, of course, we go out to dinners and no lunches. But the girls have their dinners now because we only have one of the girls has their husband yet, and the rest are all widows. And so they have their dinner when we go out. They don't have to cook when they get home.
Oh, I see.
And they're all so nice, very, very lovely ladies. And everybody's been through quite a bit. But then once a month, we talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows everybody's children and what they're doing. And then we separate and everybody goes their own way. And we all live too far apart to see each other every day.
Mm-hmm.
So once a month is all we have now. But that's a long time. I can't figure out how long that is now. But
What, from 37 to
well, we
60?
met in 34, you see. And then some of them I went to grade school with. I met in the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I came to Detroit. So I've known some longer.
Yeah, that's great.
But the ones from Southwestern High School I met after graduation, right in there. And all nice, all good people.
Yeah.
Had nice husbands, and had a couple ladies that don't, for some reason they drifted away. One went into a little theater group, and another one moved to Florida permanently. But all the ones that are in our area, we still meet. Very nice.
Very nice. Well, you were talking about how poor you were, but there's pictures of you with jodhpurs riding polo ponies. How do you? Is that what the poor people did?
Well, that's because that's what we like to do, and we kept right on doing what we liked to do, even if we didn't have any money. And back then, it didn't cost much to go out and go riding.
No.
You could ride all day for 50 cents.
Oh, really?
And my sister worked at a department store and had a discount on clothes. So when they had a sale, why, that's the kind of clothes we get. We got our tennis clothes, our jodhpur clothes, our swimming suits, because those were the 3 sports we liked. And we just kept right on doing it. Everybody thought we were wealthy. And we never said anything. We never told anyone we didn't have any money. And just kept quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have kidded them sometimes about having potato soup. But I was serious, and they thought I was really making that up. But my mother made good potato soup.
Good thing.
But we did do everything. And I've had some of my old friends back then, they've told me since that they used to just envy us. That we were always doing things. The three of us, 3 O'Toole girls, and my sister, Kay, always managed to have all these nice friends for us to meet. And then we had a club that they let me join finally when I think I was 15 when they let me in. It was called the Amiki Club.
Oh, Amiki. Friends.
A friend.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice group. And so that group met about every other week. And everybody did their own art, their own craft or whatever. They could sew. And that's when I was drawing. And I would take my drawing with me and draw the whole evening. And all my friends ended up with pictures, and I didn't end up with any. I gave them all away for presents, and I used to draw babies and dogs, animals.
There's a few on the wall back there.
Is there?
Mm-hmm. Want to look at those?
Mm-hmm.
But she wanted it. But here, this is what I did mostly was the dogs.
And why do you like it?
I just love to draw those dogs.
Are those your dogs?
Uh-huh. No, these were dogs, show dogs that we took pictures of, and they were just little pictures, about maybe that big, and then I drew from that size. So
And what kind of dog is this?
I won a couple of awards now that I'm thinking of it. I won a couple of blue ribbons.
Wow.
And I just loved doing it. I would have liked to have gone on and done more. And I did do it for about 10 years.
Wow.
And I gave them as birthday gifts, Christmas gifts. And people would say, now would you draw a picture of my dog? And I'd say, oh, okay, send a picture over, snapshot. Horses, I did horses. One time I even did a cow.
Now you have a horse named after you.
Oh, and now I have a horse named after me.
And what's that story?
Empress Zita. Isn't she beautiful? Have you seen her lately?
I haven't seen her.
She's got the most beautiful face, and the eyes. I said to her, do you know you're named after me? And she sort of put her nozzle out and nuzzled me. Yeah, so that's good.
So your mom had 3 girls, and then you had 3 girls?
My Grandma Murray had 5 girls, and out of the 5 girls, the youngest daughter first had a girl, then she had a son. And he's the only boy out of those 5 girls. Everybody else had girls.
Wow.
And we have a reunion every year with them.
Lots and lots of girls, huh? So Alex was like the first boy on this side of the family, huh?
Oh, let's see. No, my sister Kay had 2 boys, and that's Kenny.
Oh, okay.
That you've met, and then Peggy had 1 boy, and I had the 2 girls. But Peggy had 3, 2 girls and a boy. Kay had 2 boys.
So what's the wildest thing your kids ever did? Your 3 girls.
The wildest thing they ever did that really, oh heavens, I don't know. They did a few things.
Like what?
Oh my, like the time Kathy went for spring vacation down to Florida, and I thought she was just going down like to Fort Lauderdale or something. And next thing I know, she's in Nassau. She took a plane over to Nassau on the beach, and I knew that she didn't take much money with her. And when I heard about it, I said, my God, what'd you do for money? Oh, she said, we did fine, didn't cost much. We just told them we only had a couple of bucks, and that's what they charged us. She'll kill me for telling that.
Ready when you are.
Okay, we might have to do it once or twice.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Today we're visiting with Zita O'Toole Pfeiffer, a lovely lady born in Michigan, and now here in her favorite place, which is San Luis Obispo. Zita, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Very pleasant.
Okay. You think you could talk to us for about, half an hour and tell us a few things?
I imagine I could talk. I don't know how interesting it'll be, but whatever you ask me, I'll try and answer.
You will?
Mm-hmm. I'll watch it.
You said whatever.
Be careful.
Already I'm getting sensitive. Okay, well, let's try. Okay, today we'll have a nice visit with Zita O'Toole Pfeiffer. Visiting, Hi, today we're visiting with Zita O'Toole Pfeiffer from Michigan, and now she's in her favorite place, a place that she thinks is so beautiful, San Luis Obispo.
I do.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So do you think, would you like to spend, maybe a half hour with us and tell us all your deep, dark secrets?
I'll be glad to spend a half hour or so.
Okay, now listen, you have to be 55 to be on our show. Are you 55?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say anything more about that.
Oh, okay. Class, that was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it.
Maybe, and we can, we won't tell all those deep, dark secrets that you don't want us to.
Oh, don't publish it. Keep it under cover.
That was just a joke, nothing dark here. Thanks, Zita.
All right.
See you next time. Oh.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Okay, well, thanks, Zita. I enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. Thanks
I
for
enjoyed it too, every minute.
walking down the
Very
Irish memory lane with you. That was a lot of fun.
We didn't. Next time I'll talk a little bit more about Ireland.
Oh, okay. All right.
If there's a next time.
There'll be a next time. People will write in. They'll say, "Give us more Zita."
Oh.
And then we'll do part 2. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well,
I think that could,
Make it all
that
up.
would be, yeah, you could just be totally free to make up stuff. That's
Okay, go ahead and ask her about Ireland.
Okay, so did you ever get to Ireland?
yes, I was in Ireland. I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe 3. I don't keep track of the time very well. And I went over there. I'd always wanted to go, and I went over there with my nephew and 2 daughters. And I couldn't have had a better time. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was as green as I could ever want it to be. And the people were wonderful. We met the nicest people. And I loved it. I loved all the old castles and all the sites that we took and the tours. And I can't think of all the names right now.
Did you visit, did you go to Dublin?
Yes. Yeah, we flew into Dublin, rented a car.
Drive down the right-hand, on the left-hand
yes,
side?
yeah. But fortunately, my nephew is left-handed. So he drove, and my daughter was a good map reader, and she told him where to go.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
And then what happened?
We didn't get lost, and we drove down to Wicklow, where the O'Toole's came from. And I wanted to go there. My dad had always talked about County Wicklow, and it's right on the North Sea there, and right on the coast, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most, I think it's the most beautiful spot in Ireland. And it's called the Garden area or something of Ireland. Up in the mountains, it's just beautiful. So when we stayed at B&Bs, enjoyed every one of those.
Really?
Carrying the luggage in and out. And, but it was wonderful, and they treated us so well. And the people that run those B&Bs couldn't have been nicer. The food, they fixed us the most scrumptious breakfasts.
What do they eat for breakfast, the Irish?
Oh, everything. They had from juice to bacon and eggs and waffles and pancakes and scones and everything.
I'm getting hungry.
Yes, that'll do it.
Did they make Spanish rice?
No. And what? We had Irish stew.
Ah.
Real Irish stew in Wicklow at the pub.
Ah.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah, what makes it Irish stew?
I think one of the ways is because they put Guinness beer in it.
Aha.
And we got the recipe for it. And but they still want Spanish rice on St. Patrick's Day.
Did you drink Guinness when you were there?
Yes, I had a taste, but I didn't care for it. And we went to one pub where they taught my daughter how to draw the beer. We got a picture of her doing that. And we went to another theater where we saw the Dublin, what were they called, the Abbey Players or something like that, the singers, and they were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one of their tapes before we left, and it was fun. The whole thing. We went to the famous horse farm, the Irish stud farm there, These beautiful thoroughbred horses. And we went to woolen mills. We bought woolen woolen sweaters for home, and just drove along. Stopped when we wanted to, and then we came home.
B&B would be a good way to go.
Oh yes, I'd love to do it again, but I'd like to see another. We didn't get over on the West Coast too much. I'd like to go over that way, and then maybe go north a little bit, and then back into Dublin. There was so much to see and do, and but I got to run very well. The kids got me around.
Well, maybe if your nephew and your 2 daughters are watching, they'll take you back.
Maybe.
Maybe. So,
Okay, that's good. Today at lunch, it was hysterical.
what was it? You've always got a joke to tell.
It was the one about.
Well, not for television.
Oh. No,
Sue.
well, we don't want it X-rated or anything.
No,
But
I don't want to.
Can't think of one?
Well, I could think of 3 or 4, but I'm not going to tell them. I'll tell. I think I told it. Don't put this up.
Okay.
Didn't I tell them about the 3 nuns that went to heaven?
Yeah, that was the one. Tell that one.
No. I won't tell that.
Just tell it for fun. It won't be on.
Gary hasn't heard it.
Tell it to Gary.
Tell me.
Won't be on tape, she says.
I'm sitting down.
But that, well, the 3 little nuns were in an automobile collision, and all 3 were killed. And they all went up to heaven, of course, and there was St. Peter at the gate. And he said, oh my, 3 of you all at once. He said, I don't know. I did expect each one of you later on, but not 3 at one time. I don't know whether I have room. And he said, well, all I can do is I'll have to make you answer a question, and if you get it right, you can come into heaven. So they said, all right, that was a bargain. They'd go along with it. So he said to the first one, he said, well, now what were the first, who was the first man on earth? And the first little nun says, oh, St. Peter, that's an easy one. And she says, that was Adam. And the cymbals clashed and the horns blew and the gates of heaven opened and she went in. So then he looks at the next little one and he says, well, now let's see, who was the first woman in the world? And the little nun says, oh, St. Peter, that's an easy one. She says, that was Eve. Oh, and the cymbals clashed and the horns blew and the gates opened and in she went. So now he looks at the third one and he thinks, well, let's see now and he says to her, well, now what were the first words that Eve said to Adam? And the little nun thought and sort of looked around. She says, St. Peter, that's a hard one. And the cymbals clashed and horns blew and the gates of heaven opened. So you want me to tell that?
No. Oh, dear.
What, did you have like the
Good
4
one.
questions you were going to ask everybody, the ones you stole?
Oh, yeah, I had, what is your pet peeve?
Well, I've got several of those, but
Well, we don't want them to think you're a crotchety old lady. Just
if
pick
they're-
one. I got a lot of them.
Well, one pet peeve is I'm so hard of hearing, and I have 2 hearing aids, but these young people speak so fast that I can't understand them.
Aha.
If they would just slow down a little bit, I would enjoy being with them more.
Yeah.
But they speak so fast. Now when they speak to me directly, and I say slow down, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get along fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just with a group or with 3 or 4 of them, and they're talking to each other, that's it. I can't understand what the conversation is. And
You don't like to not know what's going on.
that's a pet peeve.
Okay. How about a pet peeve? Do you have another pet peeve?
Another one. Another pet peeve is people not speaking up loud enough. So that's along the same thing. And then I have when you're driving and these little cars are going in and out of traffic without turning their turn signals on.
Ah.
That's a bad one. You know. And then another big major one, another big major one is people who don't do their jobs right. They're hired to do a job, and then once they don't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
They take their time about doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I think if you've got a job to do, you should do it.
Yeah, I agree. Who do you think is not doing their job right now? Anybody?
For instance, what area are you talking?
No, I don't know. Just off the top of your head, what made you think of that?
Oh, well, I think that when I'm out with salespeople, that'll stop me a lot. Because salespeople know they're there to sell. They're there to wait on people, be nice, and they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look away, they'll ignore you, they'll walk away, they'll talk to each other. And
Not at Gottschalk's.
Yeah,
They don't do that at Gottschalk's. You were saying that's your favorite store.
that's my favorite store. I like that store. Reminds me of a couple of them at home.
Yeah.
And I especially like it on Tuesdays when they give that 10% discount.
For over 55.
I like that.
Okay, anything you want to tell that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head. Oh, I don't know.
How about words of wisdom you pass on to your grandchildren? I mean, except for speak up.
I don't know. Oh, for speaking. I've been saying that one ever since Amber was in a play.
Yeah,
Remember,
that's
and I said, now for heaven's sakes, speak distinctly and clearly and take your time.
Mm-hmm. That was good advice, actually.
Because I hate to go to a play and not be able to understand a word they're saying. But, well, I don't know. I know it's very important to be happy in your life. And I had a fortune teller tell me way back when I was in my teens that I was going to have a very happy life. And for some reason, that's always stuck in my head. And I have. I've had a very happy life. I'm quite content with what I've done.
Good. Sounds like you should be very proud of it, what you've done.
I am.
That was
Pigs that were hauled into court,
no.
and the judge looked down at him and he says, 3 pigs, what on earth are you doing in here? And the first little pig says, I don't know why I'm here. I was playing out in front, and I was just in a big mud puddle making bubbles. And the judge says, well, I don't know what on earth that brought you in here for. He says to the next one, why are you here? I was with him. He says, I was just out in front playing in the mud and making bubbles. And the judge says, well, how about you? What are you in here for? And the third little pig, she says, well, I'm Bubbles.